Hello everyone, nice to meet you all. My name is Inma and I'm a freelance artist from Spain, hence my weird English accent. I'm so sorry. So anyway, I work mainly on video games. I work on visual novels and such. And on my free time, I also work on a webcomic that you can read for free on Webtoon and Tapas, which is called The Violinist and the Nerd. And it's boys love. So anyway, I'm here today to talk about working as an artist and making money as an artist. When I was little, I knew that I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't know if I could make this my job. I thought, in fact, that I couldn't. But over the years, I learned that yes, it is possible. And I would like to share my experience, things I learned on the way with you. Of course, this is my personal experience, so it might not fit your situation. So don't take anything I say as absolute truth. And please, when you become a full-time artist too, come back and tell us about it. I'm looking forward to hearing from other artists and what experience they had. I think we all can learn from each other. Anyway, let's start with everything that I gathered that I want to share with you. So to the question, how much can I make as an artist? There is no simple answer to that. Some of the most popular artists make like 40,000 a month, which is not my case. But that's a goal that's very difficult to reach. It shouldn't be your goal. I mean, I think your goal should be to make enough money to make a living, not to be rich, because it's very hard to be rich. Most people don't get there. So if that's your goal, you're going to be very frustrated. Or maybe not, but most probably. So I think that what you need to ask yourself is how much should I make to have the lifestyle that I want to have? And how much you make is not the only thing that will determine how good your life is going to be, because that depends also on where you live. Because depending on the place, life might be more expensive or cheaper, etc. And I'm going to give you one example. I live in the south of Spain, and here you can buy one cup of coffee for 1.5 euros in most places. But when I went to Paris, for a convention once, whenever I wanted to have a cup of coffee, I was charged 4 euros. I don't know if this is normal or if I just went to the wrong places, but that's how much I paid. So imagine that I make 2,000 euros in Spain. That means that I can buy approximately 1,000, I'm going to read it, 1,333 cups of coffee. Okay. Now imagine that I make 4,000 euros a month, but I live in Paris. I'm making twice as much. But now I can only buy 1,000 cups of coffee. So that means that I'm making twice as much money living in Paris, but I cannot buy as many cups of coffee as I could living in Spain for half the income. I know this is a very simple example, but I just want you to take into account that how expensive life is where you live will determine how much you need to have the lifestyle that you want to have. And that's very important that you decide on that. And also, if you're a freelance artist, you can work from home. So you can kind of decide where you want to live. I once heard the story of someone who had a blog, and he was making, I think it was like 500 a month. And he thought, okay, this cannot be my main job here where I live, but what countries could I live properly with such an amount. And he just moved there. Personally, I don't want to leave my country, and I'm not saying that that's something you have to do, but it's something that you can take into account if you want to. So where do you start when you want to become an artist? Well, the answer seems pretty obvious, but you start by drawing. A lot. When you want to monetize your work, there are many reasons why people might not be interested in paying for it. One reason is that maybe they don't like your stuff, or maybe they just didn't find you. If the reason is that they don't like your stuff, then the only way to get better at it is to draw a lot. Just keep on drawing. Even if you cannot sell what you are creating, just draw for fun and draw to learn how to make it better until you can catch people's attention. If the reason why nobody is buying from you is the fact that people didn't find you, then what you have to do is to keep on drawing and keep on posting your art online. Because being there, posting your stuff is the only way to be found by potential clients. It is very important to build an audience. I remember the first time that I wanted to open commissions. I wasn't very good back then, but I wasn't bad either. So I thought, okay, maybe someone will want to pay for my art, and I was poor, so so I opened commissions in a forum, and I refreshed the page each day, and hardly anyone was interested. I was very frustrated and I was very sad, but I just went on with my life and I kept on drawing because that was what I wanted to do and what I had fun doing. And I was determined to get better. Sometime later, I got into a popular fandom, which was Tsubasa by Clamp. I'm sure many of you know of this manga. And I became a big fan, especially of Kurofai. So I started drawing tons of fan arts and tons of doujinshis. And I didn't realize at the time, but I started growing my audience because people kept seeing me around because I drew so much for this series. Then one day I decided I wanted to try opening commissions again on my DeviantArt, but I had a very, very bad experience before. So I was sure that, again, nobody would be interested in my art. But this time I filled all the slots that I opened within 10 minutes. So what had changed? I was a bit better at drawing, but not that much because I'm a very slow learner and this wasn't a long time before my first try with commissions. But this time, the difference this time was that I had an audience. I had people that were interested in what I was doing. They were following me. So when I opened commissions, I had people who wanted to buy them. So what's the moral to this story? To me, it would be that you need an audience to be able to sell your art. It is true that joining a popular fandom and drawing fan arts of it will give you an audience faster. But on the one hand, I don't want you to think this is something that you have to do. You don't have to. If that's not something that works for you, if you don't like drawing stuff of animes or video games that you don't like, then just don't do it. Just draw whatever you feel like drawing, whatever makes you happy, because that's when you are going to show the best you can do, when you feel comfortable drawing what you're doing. But on the other hand, I don't want you to feel like this is a bad thing to do, to get into a popular fandom just to grow your audience faster. Many people find it fake, you're just doing it for popularity. Well, I mean, yes, this is a job. And if you need an audience to be able to monetize your work, then I think there's nothing wrong with it. Don't let other people judge you over it, and definitely don't judge other people if they do it. Just let everybody go their own way and do things their way. Just remember, art is a job, so there's nothing wrong if that is your way of building your own audience. As for me, these days I only draw whatever I want to draw, because trying to join popular fandoms never really worked for me. But I don't judge people who do that. I mean, if they can, why not? The more you draw for a popular fandom, the more people are going to be happy to see your art. So I think it's everybody wins. Okay, so how do you find a job as an artist? First of all, I want to tell you that there are many different types of job you can have as an artist. When I was little, I thought that the only chance I had to get an art job was to work for a company, to be hired by a company. And that's just not true. There are so many ways in which you can make money off your art. I'm going to name just a few. You can work for a company, or you can work for particulars drawing commissions, or you can sell merchandise with your art, or you can make a Patreon and build your audience there, or you can draw your own manga and sell it at cons or self-publish it, etc. The list is really long, and I'm sure there are many jobs that I didn't even think about yet and that you might discover on the way. But just don't think that working for a company is the only way in which you can make money as an artist. It's not true. Some people seem to think that if you work for particulars drawing commissions, that is not a real job, that you're only a real artist if you work for a company that releases real products. Well, I have to disagree. I think that so long as you are getting paid, that's a job. You're working as an artist. It doesn't matter if the final product is a video game on a store or a book or just a post on social media. What matters is that there's money on your bank account. Money is what makes it a job. So I said that, but I understand that for some people, there is a special pleasure in the fact of seeing their art in actual products, like in books, stores, video games and such. But let me tell you something. So I told you that I thought that I could only be an illustrator if I worked for a company, right? So back when I thought this way, I started sending my portfolio to many companies to see if any of them would be interested in having me work for them. So I got portfolios printed, I emailed them, I was searching for, I went around Steam looking for indie game companies and finding them online, sending them my art. Then I looked for books on Amazon and looking for the publisher, sending them my stuff as well. And do you know how many of them replied or were interested in my art? The answer is none. So since there was no luck for me sending stuff to companies, to real companies, so that's when I decided to open commissions online. So if no company was interested in my art, then I would work for particulars. And it seemed that many particulars were interested in my art. So I started working a lot. I started posting so much art online daily that a lot of companies started to contact me to work on their projects and such. And then I started working on games, I started working on books, I created mascots for events, and so many things that I could have never done if I had not started by posting my art online, by working on commissions for particulars. So even if working on commissions is not your ideal job because you want something else, just know that it might open the doors for you to work at actual companies, because if they see your art around, then they can contact you. And it is very hard to actually walk to someone and get a job from them. Most of the time, it is the company that looks for the artist rather than the other way around. Aside from working for other people, you can also make your own projects. There are places like Patreon where you can offer whatever content you like monthly in exchange for money. If you check websites like graphtreon.com, you can see how much top Patreon creators are making. And even though most of them are podcasters and not artists, there are some artists out there, and the numbers are insane. People are making so much money, but again, I don't think this should be your goal. It's not impossible, but it's very hard, and the only way to not to be frustrated is not to aim at those numbers, because I'm talking about really, really big numbers. And you can still make a living of your art, even if you are not rich. Okay, so what kind of content can you make for Patreon? Well, I think anything you can think of. There are many ways in which you can monetize your art. You could be making tutorials, you could be sharing high resolution files, you could be giving people extra art that you don't show anybody else, or sketches, or whatever you feel like drawing. I'm going to tell you about my Patreon now and the experience I had with it. When I first started on Patreon, I thought that I would like to make it a tutorial place. Like, I wanted to make art tutorials and share them with people who paid monthly. And I thought, okay, I have an audience, so maybe this will work. Maybe people will be interested in my tutorials. But they weren't. So what happened? I did have an audience. What happened? The problem was that my audience wasn't interested in tutorials because they weren't artists. So that's something I learned back then, was that you might have an audience for a specific product, but not an audience for anything you want to make. So I had this planned and I failed, and my Patreon wasn't working. So what did I do? I kept on trying. I tried new things. So I decided to remove tutorials from my Patreon because I was making like $70 a month and it wasn't worth it. I took really long to make those tutorials. So I thought of a way to keep my Patreon alive without having to spend time to create new content for it. And what I did was to turn my Patreon into a place where I would share sketches of the illustrations I was sharing online. So I needed to make those sketches anyway because I was drawing those illustrations. And I made those sketches exclusive content for my Patreon. Checking my stats back then, I see that I kept making around the same amount of money, even though the sketch tier was a lot cheaper than the tutorial tier. But the difference was that I wasn't taking any extra time to create those sketches. I was making them anyway. So one thing you need to take into account when you work on something is that what you make in the end is not what determines the value of the work you are making. For example, if you make $10,000 on a job that takes you 2 days, well, that's a lot of money. But if you make $10,000 on a job that's taking you 2 years to complete, then that's very little money for the amount of work that you have to do. I want to keep talking about Patreon a bit more, but first, let me change the topic just a bit because I want to talk to you about the next project that I worked on, which was a webcomic. So I had a steady job as an artist, but I wanted to create my own projects. So some time ago, I decided to create my own webcomic. Around 2017, I discovered there were websites like Webtoon or Tapas where you could post your comics and make money from them. I had tried sending my stories to publishers in France, in the US, but there was no luck. So I thought, okay, maybe I can try this. I can post my comic there for free and see if I can make any money at all. The comic I was working on back then was called Revenge of the Queen, and it was a really long story that had everything I loved about mangas. It had fantasy, it had mysteries, it had a boys' love couple, everything that I liked. So what could go wrong? Well, everything, because hardly anybody read it. People weren't interested, and I didn't meet the criteria to monetize my webcomic. So I found myself working on a story that was really long and really hard to draw for no money at all because I couldn't monetize my comic there. After giving it some thought, in the end I had to drop that story. You can still read what's available, but I don't think I'm going to continue it anytime soon. So I failed at drawing comics. What did I do? Did I give up? Well, at first I did. Back then I thought that drawing comics just wasn't profitable enough to make a living. So I focused on working on illustrations for video games and such that paid better. But over time, I started feeling this urge to work on my own projects again, to draw my own comics. And I really wanted to draw boys' love. So I thought, okay, let's give drawing comics another chance, because you can never discard something that you love just because you failed once or twice or more times. So anyway, so this time I did what I should have done the first time. Instead of creating a really long story full of plot twists and stuff, I created a short story with only 2 characters that I knew that I could finish within a year. Even if the story didn't give me any money at all, I would finish it, because I was creating it in a way that I knew it wouldn't be a nightmare to finish. I know that building a complex story is really awesome. And if you are lucky enough, you might succeed on your first try, but that's not normal. So I don't recommend that you start with the creation of your life. Just start with something simpler that you can actually finish, because otherwise you'll either have to drop your story that you worked on so much, or you'll have to work on it for free for years. So now I started working on a new boys' love webcomic called The Violinist and the Nerd. And this time the miracle happened. I did meet the criteria to monetize my work. And this is where we go back to Patreon, because I decided to turn my Patreon into a webcomic related place. I started posting chapters ahead on Patreon so that each few days people would get new content and they could always read chapters before they were published for everyone else. And I also share the sketches and such. So between Patreon, what I was making on Webtoon and Tapas, I started making around $500 a month, which is not a lot, but for me it was an extra, because I was working on this on my free time. I still had a job as an illustrator. And I was having so much fun, which is another very important part of working on comics. So this short story of mine that I finished in December last year actually became a bit longer because while I was finishing season 1, I had this idea for season 2. And I decided to start working on it right away. People were interested, I was having fun, so I thought, let's do it. My audience kept growing, which made me very happy. But here's a funny fact for you. I had around 70 Patreons when I was posting chapters of my comic to Patreon. And on season 2, there was one adult scene that was exclusive to Patreon. And it was after I posted that scene that my Patreon went from 70 patrons to 280. So as you can see, yaoi sells. But of course, I didn't want everyone to have to pay for my content, so I'm making the whole comic for free, which brings me some income from page views. And I'm only making the yaoi content paid content. I'm talking way too much, and so I'm going to summarize my final thoughts on what I have learned about working as an artist and what I'd like to share with you. First of all, draw a lot. It's the only way to find potential clients and to become better at drawing until someone is interested in buying art from you. Second, and I didn't say this before, but I think it's very important that you keep a list with your prices so that people can easily see what you're offering and how much they would have to pay for what they want. Knocking on doors is not the only way to be found. Just remember that the fact that you are posting your art online, that people are retweeting it or sharing it into Instagram stories and such, that also helps companies find you. Make sure to advertise your commissions and make sure that everyone knows they are open when they are. Because I've seen many artists who don't advertise their commissions at all, that it's very hard to know when they are open for them or not. And you are losing possible clients if they don't know. If people know you are available, there are more chances that they will contact you about it. If something doesn't work out, don't worry too much about it. Just keep trying. Either try another time or make some adjustments to the project, or just keep trying. Build an audience. If you want to start a personal project, try not to start with something that's too big. And last but not least, don't work for other people for free. You are going to find many people who will either request free art from you, and I mean, if they're your friends or you feel like doing it, then just do it. But don't feel forced to do it. Especially those people who say, I'm going to give you exposure. What is exposure? How does that pay for my bills? It doesn't. And half the time, people who tell you that don't even have the audience to give you any exposure at all. So just ask for money for your work. Don't be afraid to ask for money because you are working. Art is not a necessity, it's a luxury. So it is something that people have to pay for if they want it. And that would be all. I hope my experience can help you in some way. And if you have any question, remember you can ask them now. Have fun creating!
Oh, excellent. So cute and funny. Okay.
Thank you, friends.
I really enjoyed your video. All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and then I will spotlight you. I did catch some questions in the chat already. And then there's some more coming in. So stop share. All right, you are pinned, so hopefully you are showing up for everybody. Okay, so the first question that I saw was, back to my question here, from Seji. How long did it take you to grow an audience? Let's say around 500 people, for example, when you first started, how many months did it take?
That's very hard to answer because when I started, there was no social media. I feel very old right now. But when I started having social media, I think I was at a live journal. Does anyone remember that place? Well, anyway, I think as soon as I started drawing fan arts of Tsubasa, I got a more or less big audience. It wasn't really big. Like I started having on DeviantArt, I had like, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get some people interested in buying my art, which I didn't have before. So yeah, for me, the drawing for popular fandom really worked, but that's not the only way. Another way that I didn't mention on the video is to join popular hashtags. You know, it's not just about a fandom, but also when somebody comes up with an idea, like, do you remember the redrawing Sailor Moon hashtag recently? People who posted on that hashtag on Twitter got extra retweets and extra likes and such, and also extra followers. So yeah, that's also another way to draw whatever you want, more or less, but get some extra followers.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, the next question I got was from Lenka. Do you have any recommendations for artists who want to start offering commissions?
Yes, actually I do. First, I said on the video that make sure that people know that your commissions are open, and I can't stress that enough. I truly know some artists who don't get more commissions because people just don't know. And if you make a post every now and then about it, or share your random art, but say, hey, I'm open for commissions if you want something like this, that would help. Also, if you put that your commissions are open on your profile with a link to your price list. And that's the second part that I truly recommend when you are working on commissions, is that you keep a price list. Because sometimes, I know this happened to me, that sometimes I see an artist who says, I'm open for commissions and I really like them. So I'm like, maybe I want to buy from them. But the fact that I don't know how much I'm going to spend sometimes keeps me from contacting that artist, because I'm scared that I will ask and the price will be too high for me. And then I don't know, I will feel ashamed not to say, I'm sorry, I don't want it anymore and such. But if you give people a list with exactly what they are going to pay for the type of commission you are offering, like waist up or full body, the kind of coloring, just any sorry, my English, any different type that you want to offer, you can give it a price and you can put it there for people to see, so that that will help people decide to contact you about commissions. Yes, so that's my two advices.
This isn't the next question, but on that same topic, what do you use to show off your price list? Like a website, Ko-fi?
Personally, I kept a PDF file that I sent to clients who wanted to order from me, but that was just because at this point, I'm not open for commissions anymore. But in the past, I used to have them on DeviantArt, which is now dead, so I don't recommend that. But if you want to have your price list somewhere on your Twitter or Instagram and such, I recommend either create a link with your PDF or create some kind of blog that you can link from Twitter and Instagram and such. You can have a link tree with different links to different sites of yours, and one of them could be commission prices. And that link could be to the blog, wherever you have the prices written.
All right, thank you. Okay, the next question I saw come across was from Jenny. Oh, sorry, that was the last one. From Ali Mal. Do you think it is possible to make it as a traditional media artist, like ink and Copic markers instead of digital?
Yes, absolutely. I just think it's going to be a different type of project. For example, currently I work on video games, and if you look around, there aren't many video games with traditional art. Mostly they are digital. But I think, for example, if you want to sell merchandise, or if you want to draw comics for a webtoon, or even if you want to create a special video game that has something that not other video games have, then you can use traditional art too. I'm full digital artist, but I don't think that you should feel like there is no place for you as a traditional artist, because in the end, if everyone's digital, maybe you are doing something different and special. So just give it a try. And I do think that people like traditional art a lot. I see a lot of traditional artists who have a really big audience on Instagram. I would give you names, but I suck at that. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I hope you guys didn't hear me typing. So I was typing questions. Okay. So then Sean R asks, how do you go about posting art? Do you do batches ahead of time, or do you post it the same day you draw it?
Oh, well, when I draw, I always try not to finish a piece on the same day I started it. I always try to work on the sketch first, and then I leave it for another day to check. This is because when you are drawing, you are so fixed on what you are doing that sometimes you don't realize mistakes. And when you open the file the next day, you are going to see a lot of things that need to be changed, that if you finish on the same day, it will be a mess. So my recommendation is never finish a piece on the same day you started. And then regarding how I post art, these days, I don't post much art online because I work on video games, and that's work stuff that I cannot share, or I work on the comic and I post chapters every week. But in the past, when I was working on commissions, yeah, as soon as I got the approval from the client, I posted it. But if I got the approval of 2 pieces of art on the same day, then I didn't post them at the same time. I waited until the next day because I didn't want to spam people. And I think it's always best to space how you post art so that people won't get bored, or that the algorithms will not screw how many people sees both pieces.
Great, thanks. You give really comprehensive answers. I like it. Okay, so from SS has questions kind of about taxes. So do you have to, or did you have to pay taxes on commissions and Patreon, or at what point did you have to start paying taxes for your art?
Okay, I can only talk about taxes in Spain because that's where I live, but I don't think it's going to be very different in other places. I don't know. In Spain, once you start making money as a freelance, you have to pay taxes for everything. So yes, I pay taxes for commissions, I pay taxes for Patreon, And in my case, I have to convert the money into euros because I pay my taxes in euros. So it's extra hard for me. But yes, you need to take taxes into account. And also you need to check whether the kind of work you are making, how many taxes do you have in the US? Because in Spain, we have two kinds of taxes. One that is paid by the buyer, which in my case, that doesn't apply because of the kind of work that I make, which is, how do you say it? Art is not taxed like that. And then there's another kind of tax, which is from all the money I make, I need to pay a percentage. Is that the word?
Yes. Yeah. Like here, I think I don't work as an independent contractor, but we have sales tax on things that are sold, which most things fall under and can differ by state. And then there's income tax, which is on money you made. And do you have, I don't know how Spain works. We pay that. I think you pay it at the end of the year. I think you can also pay it quarterly, maybe if you're independent.
Yeah, in Spain, I pay it every 3 months. And then at the end of the year, well, the next year, I make another, I fill another tax form to make sure that everything went okay. And then they calculate my taxes again and such. In the end, I spend the time filling forms and paying taxes. That's the truth of a freelance artist.
Okay. The next question I saw was from Choco. I'm from South America. Do you think it's better to build an audience from your own country or international? Is one more difficult than the other?
I don't think there is one good option, actually. So long as there is people either willing to pay for your content or willing to see your content at places that pay you per page views, as is the case of Webtoon, I don't think it matters. Personally, when I started drawing commissions, not commissions, but when I wanted to draw manga, for example, I was more interested in building an audience outside my country because my country didn't pay very well to draw manga. So I wanted to have an audience outside so that maybe some publisher outside would be interested in my stuff, but it didn't happen. So yeah, just don't worry about where your audience is from unless you want to sell your product, like sell merchandise, sell books, sell commissions, etc. Then it has to be people whose exchange rate doesn't make your prices too expensive, or people who has money to spend on that, which depending on the country, some countries are richer than others, so it might be harder to find buyers from specific places. But also take into account that if you, depending on where you live and your currency, you can make a lot of money in your country while making it cheap for people from other countries if their currency, the difference between your currency and theirs is big. Right now, euro is stronger than dollars. So when I make money in dollars, I'm actually making less money than people expect because I have to convert it to euros. But if I was working in a country whose currency is weaker than dollars, then maybe I can ask for more dollars and people will find it easy to pay. But for me, it would be more money than expected. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
That made sense to me. Okay, great. So then Markia asked, should you register your brand name before selling your art on websites like Etsy, or is it okay to wait first to see if you grow a following?
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat?
Yes. Did you, the person asked, should you register your brand name? Like, I guess register it before selling your art, or or should you wait to see if you get a following if you want to kind of trademark yourself?
Well, if you have a brand name, then I guess sure, register it. Why not? I personally didn't. I just signed my pieces under my name. I'm not a brand. But yeah, if you want to put everything under a specific brand, then do it, because you can keep it for the future. Even if it doesn't work now, it might work with a different project under the same trademark name.
Okay. Then let's see. Moridad asks, do you have any advice on self-advertising without coming off annoying or robotic with your post to advertise your own comic, for example?
That's well, I think you could maybe post work in progress sometimes on your social media, and each time you post it, you can write, this is for a comic I'm working on, and give a link. Just always remember to give the links. It's very important. Although, even though if you are posting your comic on Webtoon, just that the link doesn't always work, but you have to give it a try. Sometimes it does work. And also another way to advertise is to pay for advertisement. When I started working on The Violinist and the Nerd, I was determined to get to have enough people reading it so that I could monetize it, because in Webtoon you need to have 4,000 sorry, and 40,000 page views a month to be able to make any money at all. Otherwise you can't make anything. So I was determined to get there. So I paid for Instagram ads to advertise my comic. I cannot say that it worked very well, but I didn't spend much money. So I think if you want to go that way, you would have to study a bit about how good advertisement works and the kind of audience you want to aim the ads at and such.
Okay, we have a couple more questions still. Debbie G asked, is making a personal website better to find clients or portfolio websites like ArtStation and Behance? Are they good enough?
I do have a website, but I don't think many people actually check that. Most companies found me through social media. So I think having your portfolio somewhere else is okay, because you can customize it whatever way you want. But in the end, you have to advertise yourself on social media, put the link to that other place and such. And I think that whatever network that has more users works better than a personal website that has no connection to anything else.
All right. The next question is from Galadrima. Have you ever experienced seeing your work on illegal sites? Is there something you can do as a creator to prevent this? Even though your work is for free on Tapas and Webtoon, I've seen some artists dealing with this.
Yes, I have seen my webcomic posted everywhere, even though it's free, like you said. What you can do is you can go to that website and send a DMCA, which is a copyright infringement statement, I think. So you fill a form with your personal information, give them the link to the original product comic where you were posting it, and the link to the person who's stealing it. And technically they should remove it. Most of the time they do, but sometimes for some reason the website doesn't. What can you do? I don't know if you can go further than that. I think you can, but it's probably expensive. This part, the DMCA, is free. So yeah, it's the best way to get it removed. But it will, someone will steal your content again. It always happens. It doesn't matter if you write a message at the top of each chapter saying, please don't steal it, it's free. They will do it anyway. But oh well.
Got it. I like your attitude that it's just, oh well. All right. And then circling back, Ali Mall had another question about ink and paper. She said, what kind of paper do you use for Copic markers? Do you have any recommendations? And then Ali said in the chat, they mentioned, at the moment I use Strathmore marker paper, but I haven't had much of a chance to compare it to other types. Do you have a personal recommendation about that?
I don't, because I never use Copics. I bought some a very, very long time ago because a friend of mine was really good at that and I wanted to be as good as her. But the moment I tried them, I realized just, no, this isn't for me. I'm 100% digital artist. I fail completely at traditional art. I'm so sorry.
Well, those are all the questions I have seen. Somebody just said Seji's question. If you have a final question, go ahead and type it in the chat.
Okay.
Otherwise,
maybe I can. I wanted to add some stuff to the video that I didn't comment on the video.
Oh, okay. Sure, we've got about 5 minutes left, so go ahead.
Okay, awesome. One of them is that on the video, I talk a lot about failure. And this is because I just, currently I'm doing very well and I've been doing very well for a long time, but even when I was doing well, there was a lot of failure involved. And I just don't want you to think that an artist who succeeds is someone who tried once and got it done. You have to go through more failure than succeeding moments in your life to get things done. But be patient, because if it's what you want to do, then just do it. Just keep trying. In the end, I truly believe that in the end, if you keep trying, you keep learning, in the end, you can make it. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. And the other one, I wanted to talk about contracts, but I don't know if I have enough time for that. I will summarize it. I think most people think that having a contract is a good thing because it keeps you safe, your rights safe. But I found that that's not exactly true. Most of the time I work without a contract, so I'm just a freelancer. But I have worked with contracts sometimes, and one of my clients broke his part of the contract. And when I wanted to sue him, I realized that I needed over 10,000 euros to start suing him. And it was probably going to be even more expensive because he was from the US and I was from Spain, and that wasn't going to work. So I realized, okay, so if I have a contract as an artist, it's not to protect my rights, it's to protect your client's rights, because most of the time he does have the money to pay if you don't do your part of the contract. So this is not to say that you shouldn't have contracts, and I don't mean to say that, just that if you don't have a contract, don't worry too much. You can still work as a freelance artist without contracts. And that was all.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. We had one last minute question come in that I saw, which was, do you sell your art at conventions?
Yes, I used to before the pandemic. I went to Spanish conventions. In the past, I went to the one in Paris, Japan Expo, which was really big and awesome. But now I'm used to going by car and I bring tons of things with me. So I cannot go by plane anymore because there's no way I can bring all that with me. But yes, I love conventions. It's a very good way of meeting people, especially for me to meet other artists and buy their stuff because I'm a big fan.
All right, thank you so much. It was a pleasure getting to hear your panel. Really enjoyed it. A lot of love coming from the chat. And thank you so much for being a guest at FujoCon. I hope you enjoyed the convention or got to see some of it.
Yeah, So thank you very much for having me. I really hope that this was useful in some way for anyone who's starting. And I don't know, if you make it and you become a full-time artist, then I would love to hear your experience in the future, maybe in some future Fujogon.
All right, thank you so much. This has been Making Money as an Artist with Inma R. Check out her comic, The Nerd and the Violinist, or The Violinist and the Nerd.
Yes.
Right, on Tapas and Webtoon. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.